What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Snobs podcast. I'm once again your host, Mick Manhattan, back again with an all-new edition, and I have a very special guest, Mike, today. You know, you may have remember him from the 20-Minute Wrestling podcast when he came on guest Mike there, Mr. Rob Gosher.
Hi guys, how's it going?
And he is back again. We're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about a lot of fun stuff that's been happening this week in the world of movies and TV and geek world. So, let's just get into it.
Okay,
all right.
Great.
So, we had the Oscars this week.
We did.
We're both film fans. The Oscars are like the Super Bowl for us.
Sure, I like the Golden Globes a little bit better, but the Oscars, the Oscars definitely are the epitome of movie award shows.
Yes, and we kind of touched down on it when we were talking online a little bit about how with the Oscars, like, you know, kind of shut down the. I enjoy the pageantry more. I don't want the politics and things like that. I feel like all these celebrities already can have any platform they want. They can make a movie about it, or they can go and do a press conference, or they can go and, you know, they have a voice already. Let's treat the awards like they are. Now, they've never been that way, so I don't blame these set of actors that way. But, you know, like, I like when Roger Deakins goes up and wins for cinematography, or the documentary filmmakers, or it's not really about that. They're just appreciative that they won, and that's what I like the most.
I agree with the whole anti-political kind of stance that most people seem to have as far as for the Oscars. It's not that celebrities don't do some amazing things for the public and have these pet causes and they're great. What'll happen, though, is a lot of these speeches will run very long. It can come across sometimes as a little self-indulgent and more like, this is really important, as, hey guys, look at me, this is what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
I would much rather they focus on other things, maybe even add some different categories, like instead of just best picture, best comedy, best drama, best horror, so you can actually have things that are representative of all the movies that came out, instead of letting a couple of people, you know, take 3 or 4 minutes to talk about their pet causes, which, you're right, they could make a movie, they could do a documentary, like Al Gore did his documentary. They could definitely be doing these things, and, you know, saving it. Ricky Gervais was right at the Golden Globes, and even though not everybody listened to him, for the most part, people kept it down, which was really, really nice.
Well, it's also I think the lowest rated Oscars in years, like a long time, and I think a lot of that had to do with, it seemed like every award show this year, it was an even bigger, because it's an election year, is an even bigger political platform. And like you said, it's not just political, it's environmental things that they are passionate about. I'm fine with that. Perfectly fine with that. I would have preferred Jane Fonda come out, who I know a lot of people hate Jane Fonda for the Hanoi Jane things. This was before my time. So I don't choose to hate anybody. And she came out, she's an actress, she's been in the business for a long time. So fine. I don't want to hear you talk about your politics. Maybe send, like, pay homage to your brother who just died last year. He was in the in memoriam. Why not do that? Like, that's my feelings on it. And I don't want to get too political with it either, but, like, I think it does take away. Like, that's why I was so happy with Parasite winning so much.
Sure.
Because Bong Joon-ho gave 4 speeches that night, and all 4 just seemed nothing but appreciative. His directing speech, when he talked to Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino and Todd Phillips and so on and so forth, it was touching. Mm-hmm. It was really touching, and, like, you know, it seems like a film fan winning an award.
Sure.
You know,
it definitely seemed like I don't feel he really knew that the movie was going to be as well received. I still, and I'll admit this, I still have not seen it yet. I missed the Alamo showing, and I just haven't got it. I think it's available for rental soon, so I'll probably rent it.
Yeah, it might be very soon on Amazon if you have that.
I do. I see that it's on there, but I don't know if it's the rent or buy or it's just the buy.
Yeah.
Parasite winning definitely seemed to be the big story coming out of this, but at the same time, there was a lot that internally in our group that kind of came out when I say that, the Psycho Cinema Film Group and stuff, that we were all talking about how horror is really massively underrepresented.
Oh yeah.
One of the movies I was really surprised, even though personally not a huge fan, was Midsummer, not even being nominated for a single cinematography or adapted screenplay, or original screenplay, nothing, just absolutely nothing, and I was really surprised by that.
Especially with how big it was, but I mean, it's. I agree, and I want to touch down on horror more, but I want to compare it to. Look at the Avengers. It was the highest-grossing movie of last year, and it got one nomination, and that was for visual effects.
And it has the record now for being the highest-grossing film to not receive a single award at the Academy. Which there were, and I've got notes. There were so many different awards that at least it could have been nominated for. You can't argue that it shouldn't have been nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay. If Joker was considered adapted because it came from comics, The Avengers was a 22, 23 movie series that they culminated into one film. And the Academy is known for at least acknowledging those things. They did it for Return of the King, which was not the best of the trilogy, but it was still acknowledged at the end. This was a cinematic feat. Whether or not people feel it's not real cinema or not, I won't get into that. It should have at least been nominated for a lot more. I know for the acting thing, Robert Downey Jr. said he didn't want to be nominated for Best Actor. I get that. And they don't really have a Best Ensemble Cast kind of thing.
No, and you're right. That should be something that's looked into, because I'm tired of the one person for female, one person, or two people win for female, two people win for male, and that's it. I'm like, you have a lot more actors who aren't going to get that recognition because there's star power there.
Right.
And like Awkwafina in The Farewell, how that wasn't nominated is beyond me, and it's such a touching and personal story. And I'm like, she didn't get one nomination, and it should have been for Best Actress. But the grandmother in the story would never see a nomination. Look at Parasite winning all those awards, and not one actor was nominated.
Right.
And I cannot remember his name, but he was in Snowpiercer, he was in The Host, and he was in Parasite. He's been in pretty much all of Bong Joon-ho's movies. He was the main actor in Parasite, played the father.
Okay.
I hate when I can't remember the name of that. Yeah, and I had it.
I wish I could help you.
He deserved it, and he deserved it so much for his performance in Parasite, just to be nominated at least.
Sure.
Because I'm not saying I disagree with who won, and Brad Pitt was good, but Brad Pitt didn't do a better performance than Leonardo DiCaprio did in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
But they were nominated for two completely different roles, which was really weird because it was a duo that I think was, for the most part, on screen the exact same amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know how many people will just turn off the podcast when I say this. I did not like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I turned it off, and I don't do that. That is so hard for me to do.
Wow. I can only name like 2 movies I've done that to.
I was so bored, and the movie
really
it felt so self-indulgent into Hollywood, which is so weird for me because Quentin Tarantino has done some of the best films that I've ever seen. Django Unchained is my second favorite Western. Pulp Fiction is one of my favorite gangster films. He's done amazing. And it's so funny because he has, gone on record as going up against the Academy and saying that, they're self-indulgent and all this other stuff. And he makes a movie that just seems to be playing to the crowd. Idolizing how Hollywood was, and then putting in the Mansons. And I can't remember, but there was a George Clooney film that did something very similar. It wasn't Hail Caesar or something like that, but I can't.
Hail Caesar, for all of its faults, it was actually more of a true story than anything.
Yeah.
Because the guy that Josh Brolin was playing was a fixer in Hollywood. He was a legit dude.
That, to me, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood felt like Hail Caesar to me, and I'd already seen it, and I was like, okay, I've already seen this. I get it. They're gonna. So I turned it off right as they really started introducing the whole Manson side. I did go back and finish it, and I did not enjoy that film. And I hate saying that because so many other people say it was great. It passed me by.
It's funny because to me, Parasite was the best movie of the year. because it was an original story. It has twists and turns throughout the entire thing. It would have been a perfect Psycho Cinema movie. I understand why Film Club did it, but even for Psycho Cinema, because even like the last like 20 minutes of that movie, you're just like, what is happening? And it fits in such a cult status, but also it's elevated to, because it's such an original story, it's elevated to an art house status, or an award worthy status. But when it comes to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that's my favorite movie of the year.
Okay.
And but I think here's the thing. Coming from, having lived in Los Angeles, growing up, always wanted to be a filmmaker, and then that's what I went to do. I get the film fan side of it. No, I'm sure you do too. You're a film fan. You are a legit film fan. We have talked, so I know. So I'm not taking anything away from you by not liking it. But that feeling of LA. Now I understand. Now this is why I understand maybe why it's not as well received as most of his, is because if you don't feel it that way, if you don't understand Los Angeles like that, like living in it,
sure,
I don't know people would really care. Why are we watching this? Who cares? What does this have to do with anything? But like the same sets, the same Warner Brothers sets, or the same, things.
I can understand that part.
Just driving through LA, like that was like when you first get there, like all I could do was stare at LA, like go up in the canyons and just stare down and be like, this is LA, this is where I am, or drive to all the places you like. So I got him being a film fan making this movie. This was his love letter to not the film industry, but to Los Angeles where he grew up and what he does, his type of filmmaking.
Okay.
So I got that, and that's why I felt the way I did about it, and I think everybody in the movie got it too. I think he really pulled out everybody's inner film junkie.
Sure.
Like the people who love. He made them realize why they love making these movies, and in that movie, I think that shines through the performances. Now, with that, I didn't love the Manson stuff. I was kind of like, all right. When I first started about it, I was like, his take on it could be kind of cool. I did like where he took it, and I do understand why he took it there.
But he did the same thing that he did with Inglourious Basterds, where it's basically, he set up this universe where certain stuff didn't happen.
Yeah.
Which I get, and that's where the theory that all of his movies are connected and they're all in the same universe, it explains how certain things happened, how did things get a certain way it did. Well, Hitler was killed in one aspect, and the Manson family actually didn't kill Sharon Tate. Spoiler alert if no one's seen it. I kind of get that, but I don't like the idea that all the movies are connected, to be honest with you. I like that there's little Easter eggs, but when I look at each of his movies, they're so different. He had a absolutely amazing take on the Kung Fu movie with Kill Bill.
Yeah, definitely.
And then he's like, all right, I'm going to take the second half and I'm going to make that a revenge flick, which was also really good. Just completely different from the first half. So he's done like all these different genre films, and that's why I was kind of looking at it as like, okay, if this is an old time kind of Hollywood feel and stuff like that, I just didn't get that, because I do love the old Hollywood films, even the bad ones, like the Silver Chalice, which was awful, but still great to watch. So I guess I just didn't. I guess it just missed it for me. But then again, there's a ton of other movies that he's done that I'll argue with anybody that it's some of the best movies made.
I do get that, like with the Manson stuff, the reason he ended it that way. I mean, I don't mind the interconnection between all of them, and I like the idea of like him killing Hitler in a movie theater was his way of saying like now the world has changed, and that's why movies are so revered in pop culture. But killing the Manson family, that was his way of saying, because he was alive back then, and he was a kid when it happened. Now it had like a profound effect on him, he said in an interview, and he was like, I changed it to the way I wish it happened.
Sure.
And I was like, you know what, you're a filmmaker, you've given us the Kill Bill movies, you've given us Pulp Fiction, you've given us Jackie Brown, so much more. Go ahead.
Sure.
Make one for you, Quentin. I was fine with that. So like, and like I said, I felt it was very touching. Like I loved all of the roles, not all the roles, all the scenes. I chewed up with the filmmaking side of things. I didn't care so much for the Manson side, but I really ate up all of like the filmmaking side and with following DiCaprio's character.
That's fair.
I do like your take on it though, and I understand it. Like I get it. Like I said, like I get why maybe it didn't resonate with a lot of people. But going back to the Oscars real quick, so I do understand why I don't think that should have won. I loved it, but I shouldn't have won Best Picture. Parasite winning, I think when you see it, you'll understand why. Because it's refreshing. It's like when Get Out won.
Yeah.
Get Out was surprising it won because it was a horror movie, but it was such a refreshing story. It was different. You know, you weren't getting a lot of that, and Jordan Peele brought it with that one. And we were talking about a little bit before how horror doesn't really get any type of respect. I mean,
not at all.
We really think about it. The Exorcist, Silence of the Lambs, and Get Out.
I think Carrie got nominated.
It might have been.
I think it was like screenplay or something like that. But I thought.
Yeah, maybe. But that's
right.
Even then, I don't know, and that's surprising to me because if it did, you would think like that would be more pronounced knowledge or something,
sure.
You know, through the Academy Awards, not. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure it might have, like Stephen King was a genius even back then. So, but it's just not enough love.
Sure.
For a genre that has a lot of good movies, like it has a lot of bad, but it has a lot of good.
I kind of wonder if that's the fact that horror movies kind of came out of the schlock, which is an interesting word in general. They were B movies. They weren't that great. You had movies like Ed Wood and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And people didn't want to watch it. Then you had Hitchcock kind of bring it to the forefront, and Hitchcock changed how movie attendance was. Psycho was the first movie where people actually had to show up within the first 20 minutes, or else the main character was gone, and people did not know that was happening. He made sure that no one knew about that. He changed how people attended movies. They had to put trailers at the beginning because they used to put them at the end, and then they realized people were going to be sitting there waiting because they didn't want to miss anything. And I think there was a little bit of a kind of a culture shock there where horror was like, the Academy was like, you're not going to change how we're going to do things, so no, we're just going to ignore you. And it's persisted from the 60s all the way until now. There are a few movies that get by because they are just so well done. Mm-hmm. But the majority of them, not even for things like makeup, which there are so many people in the horror industry that can do fantastic makeups and have to do it for the entire movie. And it's not easy to do that. And they get ignored.
And go back. And I challenge you to go back and watch the acceptance speeches of like the last 30 years of costume, or not so much costume, but the makeup effects and hairstyle. And every one of them, almost every one of them, thanks either Stan Winston, Rick Baker, these top level guys who own the companies that train them, and they went on to win Academy Awards. And how Rick Baker or Stan Winston don't have multiple awards in this. Look at the things they've created. You're absolutely 100% right. And it does bug me because if you think about it, think about every genre. Which genre really pushes the limits of trying new things from a filmmaking standpoint?
It's either horror or some foreign films, maybe some dramas. But for the most part, it's horror really trying to push what can be done. Especially with cinematography. Bliss last year, which was almost my favorite movie of the year, that cinematography was just bonkers. And it's one of the most physically difficult movies to watch. My wife watched it, was getting seasick, but it's so good. They were pushing stuff like that. You had the Blair Witch, which was really trying to do the found footage kind of thing, which is now a staple in not just horror movies, but in a lot of other movies.
Yeah. They perfected that.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you remember, the only movies that really were Peeping Tom, there was a couple of others that had point of view filmmaking, but it wasn't the whole movie.
Right.
So you're right, and that was a huge movie when it came out. That intense marketing, people thought it was real. A lot of people who may be listening, I did too. I remember having an argument with my cousin at a barbecue. I think I was about 19 then, and I was just like, no, it's real. And he's like, no, it's all marketing play. And I'm like, no, seriously, it's real. And
These people died.
I'm like, they're dead, and they found this footage, but it's because it was such a weird premise, not weird bad, but like weird and that, so unique that you've never heard that before. Like, wow, they just found footage in the woods, and this is what they cut together, and it's just mind bending in a lot of ways.
It was. I think that the movies that could not have gotten by without Blair Witch was the Hunger Games series. That did a lot of the shaky cam kind of thing, which a lot of people say is was seasick, but that made, especially during the battle royale kind of scenes, that made it so much more intense. So you have these movies that kind of set the stage, and they just get ignored. But sci-fi movies are the same way. Star Wars did some cinematography that had never been done before, and they were just trying new stuff. And it gets built on it. The Matrix too. I mean, you look at
bullet time.
The whole, the bullet time, the bending over backwards. That is, freezing. Just all of that's just overused now. But it's so much a part of movies that they just keep doing it. And then you have other movies that go too far, like Hardcore Henry or whatever that movie was.
Yeah,
that movie did actually make me sick.
Oh, that was a wild ride though. I'm not going to say that was it. It was a great movie. But it was definitely an interesting movie, and I like what they were trying with it. And I think you always have to try stuff like that, whether you make it or not. Make it a good movie or not. At least you tried, and that's where I always try to find a merit in certain movies. Like, especially when I'm doing reviews, it's like, well, they did this, and I like that, or they did, I may not like the movie, but they did this, I like that, or whatever it is. But when it comes to the Oscars, you're right. I didn't love Midsummer. Just wasn't for me, but I hated Hereditary.
I'm so glad we agree on that.
I don't like Ari Aster that much. I don't think he tells very compelling stories, and not that they're not well acted. They're weirdly acted, because they're just weirdly paced in the dialogue and such. But and in the timing, so it's just not for me. I know, but a lot of people love Midsummer, and for it only to be in a dance sequence.
Right.
Where you don't really see much, like, it still deserves more of a recognition. I was mad because my favorite movie of 2018 was Mandy.
Yeah.
It's a bonkers movie, but
it definitely is.
I've had this conversation with some people before though, where was another movie that came out that year. I can't even remember. You can't even remember the stuff that does get nominated half the time. They were talking about how it was about conviction and strong conviction in a man. I'm like, watch Mandy. I'm like, that movie, the whole premise of that movie is a man's conviction versus another man's conviction. He's a cult leader who stands by his conviction and kills people in the name of Jesus Christ. And then a man who has such strong conviction, who lost his wife, is just like, my goal is to murder you. I'm doing this for her. And you just see that in the end, and like the one guy break, and I'm like, for me, I was just like, I don't usually love Nick Cage movies. It's not huge for me, but that resonated with me.
I am definitely becoming more and more of a Nick Cage fan. Mandy was good. I loved Mom and Dad, and I think that's probably my favorite performance of him recently. But my favorite movie so far is Color Out of Space, by far this year.
I do want to see Color Out of Space.
It was so good. Which is funny because I think a lot of people who watched it during the Psycho Cinema showing didn't actually seem to, they were like, oh yeah, it's okay. But no one thought it was great. I just from the visual look of the film itself, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I thought it was well acted. Every single one of the characters showed that they can do crazy really well, and no one does crazy better than Nick Cage lately.
Well, I think he's owning his crazy. I think he's finally starting to realize, I am this guy. So I might as well just take the roles that are going to... Because I think he realized that with Mandy, too. I think once he stepped into Mandy and everybody's like, man, he did such a great job acting, he was probably like, well, I was really just being myself, and I think that's resonated with him, and I could see him just taking roles like that. And I think Color Space is similar in a lot of ways to Tone.
Sure.
Now, H.P. Lovecraft, I don't know how into H.P. Lovecraft you are.
Not huge. I've read some of the stories. I did, of course, I watched Reanimator. I think Necronomicon's probably my favorite horror anthology movie.
Nice.
But, I mean, he's such a Well, it was such a weird guy. I mean,
He really was.
xenophobic, racist, misogynistic. Just you would think that all of his works now, if they came out, people would just burn them in the streets and be like, "No, we're not going to listen to this."
Oh yeah.
But so much of horror is based off of the ideas that he came up with, and thanks to that The Color Out of Space showing, I was told by the host that apparently his dad thought he was going to die by tentacles. So that kind of shows what kind of upbringing H.P. Lovecraft had.
Oh man, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
Yeah, because it does get weird. And with H.P. Lovecraft, like I've never been a huge fan. I've read, like you said, some of the stories. I did retrospectives on them for like film classes and things like that, and I could never get into him. I can respect him for what he built, and it's like Gene Roddenberry. Like I respect Gene Roddenberry's world more because I'm a Star Trek fan, but like Roddenberry or anybody like that who builds their own world, you know, and kind of sets their rules and their pacing for it. But with that being said, I'm like, it's still kind of Looney Tunes to me, and I'm just not into it. I will go see movies based on it. You know, there's a Fred Ward movie from the '80s that was, I think he plays like H.P. Lovecraft in it, and he has to find the Book of the Dead, and I have to figure out the name of the movie after the show. Let me look it up, and I'll let you know. I haven't seen it in years, but it's not. It's more of a comedic role, you know, kind of. Than you would think from an H.P. Lovecraft story. But I was never really too much into it. And you know, even with like, do you remember the Masters of Horror series?
I do.
They did a lot of H.P. Lovecraft short stories in that, especially Stuart Gordon. And those are the ones I didn't enjoy as much because I was just like, I'm just not into this.
Well, I think some of the better H.P. Lovecraft stuff isn't so much the actual H.P. Lovecraft movies, but people that were inspired by him and did their own movies similar. In the Mouth of Madness is a fantastic movie, definitely inspired by H.P. Lovecraft and very much making fun of Stephen King, even though they don't want to admit it.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic, but it is that whole kind of thing. I think Event Horizon is also kind of in the vein of the H.P. Lovecraft thing of just people going insane when they look into the abyss. But yeah, a lot of the stories that go off of it, they're not fantastic. Reanimator's a great movie, not for the actual story, but just because of the actual special effects for the zombies. Stuart Gordon's best film for me, I love The Guyver. I didn't really like most of the other stuff.
I've seen that in years. Wow.
I love that movie, and that's, you know, he brought in like all the other actors that had been in Reanimator, and he was like, okay, I'm going to make a superhero film, and it's just bonkers. But it's got kind of an H.P. Lovecraft kind of feel to it as well.
Yeah.
But that was based off of an anime, or a manga. So.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? That was a long time ago, too.
It was.
Wow. It was funny because my 7-year-old just asked me recently. He's like, what is anime? Because he watches it. But he's like, he was wondering, like, how did it start? Why do they call it anime? What does that mean? And I'm like, listen, buddy, I'm not a huge fan of anime. I don't put it down. I think it's beautiful artwork. But I couldn't get into it. But it's cartoons, like, on a whole, like, not that they're sillier in any way, like, I've seen some really good ones, but something just never clicked with me, and, you know, when he was explaining about it, I was telling him, I was like, it's their style of animation, so, yeah, it just kind of made me think of that when you said that.
So, it was actually based off of American animation. Scrooge McDuck inspired the big-eyed anime.
Get out of here, really?
I'm not even kidding. The idea of the whole big eyes and stuff like that, it came off of Donald Duck and Scrooge McDuck. Because the Disney animation was everywhere, all over the world. And I had read that somewhere where they had actually taken like this, you know, Scrooge McDuck, they're like, you know what, this would be kind of an interesting animation style. But I'm actually a huge fan of anime. Not everything, especially not some of the newer stuff. But I can kind of see that. And that's actually, going back to the Oscars, something that I'm really surprised by. There is no anime represented in Best Animated Film. And a lot of them actually do get released. And some of these are really serious movies. And they don't get nominated for Best Animated Picture at all. They just get overlooked. Unless it was like Hayao Miyazaki, I know I mispronounced that, I apologize. Other than his films that got released by Disney, a lot of the other stuff just gets overlooked.
You know what bothers me about it is because I will watch animated movies and like anime, like I said, because my kids are into it, and it's more so now than before I had them. What it comes down to is like, I liked Toy Story 4. Is it the best animated movie of the year? No, not by a long shot. Neither was How to Train Your Dragon 3. Neither was what was the other one? Missing Link. Good. Missing Link was good. Don't get me wrong.
I had not seen it. I have seen The Addams Family, which I thought was an amazing way to show the actual original comic style of The Addams Family. I thought it was a great film. Wasn't even nominated. Frozen 2, which my daughter loved. I wasn't a huge fan of some of the songs, but just the way it looked was amazing. That wasn't even nominated for. Yeah. They just went with Toy Story, which Toy Story's okay.
Well,
never
Pixar,
been a huge fan. Yeah,
Pixar puts that money in.
It does. Well, that's the other thing.
They put that Disney money in.
Have you ever seen the show Adam Ruins Everything?
Oh yeah.
Did you see the episode Adam Ruins award shows or Adam Ruins the Oscars?
Yes, I did.
And he talked about how they just throw money into this stuff. And that's the only reason why, regarding the Oscars, I like the Golden Globes just a little bit more, the SAG Awards, because those are people that are in the industry. They're not worried about who's going to give them the most money or anything else like that, or who's going to give them good gift bags. They're just going to say, this is who I thought actually was really good in it. And the other thing, what he also mentioned is a lot of those people haven't even seen the movie. They vote for it, but they haven't seen it.
It's recognizable.
Right. And for me, I watched, and I actually did metrics on this on purpose. So I watched 24 new movies last year. All the other Psycho Cinema stuff I did, that was a ton of movies, but 24 new movies that came out, and only 5 of them were nominated for Oscars.
Yeah.
And I'm going to the movies every month. So 60-some films last year.
Well, I make it a point to watch all of the Best Picture winners, and the reason I do that is because years ago, say about 7 or 8 years ago, a friend of mine and I, we decided like from January 1st until I think it was like February 19th at that year, we're going to watch every Best Picture winner.
Okay.
And even then, that was because like this is the 92nd, so 7 years ago, it was a huge undertaking. And like, you could find a lot of them. A lot of movies were hard to find. We had to rely on Turner Classic Movies because they'd show all of them. All these movies, and it was like, all right, we got to stay up till 4 a.m. on this day to make sure we see this because we can't find a copy of it. The Cimarron Kid. Then we have to go over here. Not Cimarron Kid. The Cimarron. There is a movie called Cimarron Kid though. Wings we had to find and purchase on VHS, which was a used VHS, and then purchase a VHS player to sit down and watch it, just so we could watch it. And weirdly enough, Gary Cooper was in it, and he had a small, not cameo, just a small bit role in it where he shows up as a heroic pilot and then dies. His plane just crashes. So, like,
nice.
Just weird stuff like that you find along the way. But, man, there was a lot of stuff you had to trudge through. And the reason I bring that up is, like, so now I make sure to watch every movie so I don't... so it's, like, just done once the awards are done. So I have seen all the Best Pictures, but like most of those other movies on there, I really haven't seen. And the movies I did see don't really come close to being nominated.
The thing that I do like about the Oscars is they're willing to kind of extend it to the production companies like Netflix and Hulu and stuff like that. That as long as they had some kind of theatrical release, that they'll accept them. Even though I didn't like The Irishman, and I hadn't seen Marriage Story because it looks like that would hit really close to home for anybody who's married. I like that they're willing to look at that and accept that and say, okay, these are actual movies that, they're not quite made for TV. But they're really, really good.
Funny story that you should mention that. Netflix is reviled by the Academy. They hate Netflix. They don't like what Netflix is doing to cinema. They don't like their principles or their platform. And if they had their way, they would never be nominated. The problem is Netflix has money, and Netflix is pouring money into getting the celebrities.
Sure.
And it came up, I remember years ago, I forget what it was, but it was an Idris Elba movie where he played the warlord in Africa who was taking the kids. Yeah, it's funny how things are getting nominated and you just completely forget them after a while.
Was that Last King of Scotland? Or
No. I think this is like the Beast of Nation or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And they had to accept that because they did release it in theaters, an unlimited release, and then they were like, "Well, you've got to take it now, right? Like, it should be nominated." And they were going to take it. Academy was like, "No, Netflix," but they had already let Amazon in, and Jeff Bezos is a member of the Academy, and that's when Netflix was like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! You're not going to take one streaming service and not all." And like it was ruled on that you can't screw over somebody like that just because you don't like them. And that's why Jeff Bezos is there, because if you notice, a lot more Amazon represented movies get nominated than Netflix or any other platform. And I forget what I was. I think I was talking to Faye about it. Maybe it was Faye, but like I think she can't really mention like the streaming services in conjunction with Psycho Cinema because it's an Alamo Drafthouse thing, and it's not that Alamo hates streaming services or anything. I think it's just a theater versus streaming, and the theater doesn't want the streaming to be promoted on their platform.
Sure.
And I understand that. I completely get that. But at the same time, too, it's like, if you don't get the movies, we got to check them out on the streaming service.
Well, yeah.
So it's like we're going to talk about it. So you got to kind of loosen up on the social media aspect.
And that kind of, like, for me, a lot of the movies that come out, especially the Psycho Cinema stuff, if it's like the IFC stuff, if I can't make it on that Friday night or something like that, the thing that I love is that usually by the time they're out in the theaters, they're also on video on demand in some form or fashion, so I can still enjoy them. Because some of these movies, they get like one release. Color Out of Space is a perfect example. It got released for one day, and for an entire month, no one else can see it. It's not coming out on VOD until the 24th of February.
Oh, wow.
So, quite a couple of people saw it, and were saying, "Oh, you should go see this," and nobody can. So
yeah.
I like when they do it in conjunction, and I'll still go to the movies, but I could see how the Academy would be worried that some of these streaming services that are making not just a bunch of these movies, but movies that people don't have to go to the theater for, they can sit at home and watch, that, it's taking away from that theater experience. But that's the reason why things like Alamo and other companies are actually making the theater experience more enjoyable by having these film clubs, actually having nice seats and stuff like that. They're not the only game in town, so they have to make something different. And that's why I like going to the movies now, because they are more special than just sitting at home watching it on TV.
Well, it's funny because Alamo, it's so crazy to me that Alamo's here now, and like they have like the dinner menu and the drinks and things like that, and it's so more widespread. You see it at AMC and such now. And I worked at a Lowe's, I remember years ago, and it was like a big Lowe's with restaurants in it and such. And
Lowe's had restaurants?
This one did.
Oh, okay.
It was like one of their first on the East Coast.
Wow.
Their big one. They had restaurants upstairs, the whole nine, and it was a huge theater. They had cafe there, the whole, like everything.
It's really cool.
An arcade, like a nice arcade too, not like a dinky one, like you can. But many a Tekken 4 while I worked there. So going there and like seeing that experience, and then when I moved to Florida and I was going to film school, I discovered for the first time there were two theaters. One was kind of a rundown little theater, but it had tables and chairs. And you sat down at tables and chairs, you ordered food, you sat down and you watched the movie.
So it was a draft house.
But it wasn't bench.
Yeah.
It was actually like you could take a date.
Like
and
so,
sit
like
at
dinner
table and
theater
chairs.
almost then.
And then there was a really nice art house theater. And it was called the Enzian Theater. Now, if you're ever in Orlando, you should go check out the Enzian. That's where they have Florida Film Festival, a bunch of stuff. That has a bar outside you can drink at. It has a bar inside you can drink at. Two theaters that are completely decked out, candles on the table, stuff you can sit there and watch movies and just have like lavish meals and stuff.
Sure.
We didn't go there often because we were poor college kids.
Right.
But that when we did go, that was a lot of fun. But the other one, I can't remember the name of the other one, but they did the same thing, but just at kind of a lower degree. But I had never seen anything like that.
Right.
There was no experience of theater going I'm like, I can get a meal?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is this? What are you talking about? Like, I would just go there for dinner sometimes just to see what was playing.
Right.
And like, now to have Alamo is just so accessible, and like, especially showing older movies.
Right.
Because they both, like, it was either art house movies or new movies. That's what you got. Like, but to go to Alamo and have something like Psycho Cinema, and to meet the community like we did, like we met through Psycho Cinema, and like we got friends there and stuff like who were very similar minded about everything. It's just such a great community, and I'm so glad that Alamo's around. I didn't realize that they've been around for like 20 years.
The company itself, but I think we just celebrated the 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, here in Winchester.
So back when I've lived in this area now. Oh my God, almost 20 years, which is scary. There didn't used to be the Alamo. There used to be at the Apple Blossom Cinema. There was a OK Theater, which my wife and I got kicked out on our first date. It's a different story.
We got to save that one for the show.
I will. And then there was one where the Best Buy currently is.
Okay.
And that was an awful theater. It was even worse than the one at the movie.
Row seating, I bet.
Well, they were both terrible. The screens were torn and everything else like that. You could get candy and popcorn. And then when Alamo showed up, it was completely different. It's before they didn't even have reserved seating or anything else like that. You had to get there 40 minutes before the movie started, or else you were not getting a good seat. And everybody wanted to go there, and it was fantastic. That's my one. My one time I'll say that.
I do have to put a little ticker on the camera every time you hit
I think so. Hopefully that was my one. But other places, when I lived in Herndon, they had those kind of seatings. There's a place called Worldgate.
Yeah, I've been to Worldgate.
Yeah, that was a nicer theater. You couldn't get food in there, but you could bring food in from there. They sell you hot dogs and stuff like that. But theater going has just gotten progressively better. There's things like Cobb Theater and stuff like that.
Cinemark over Centerville, yeah.
Exactly. Everybody's trying to make it so that you can actually enjoy being there, because what's happening is, instead of people staying home to watch movies because they can just watch them and have food, now theaters are going, okay, let's bring the home to the theater so that you actually want to be here. Well, and it's working.
I like that, and I do like that ideal, especially because I think it adds that level of, like, you want to take your date to go. But there are times I want to go. Now, Manassas, when I was living there, they had the Manassas 4 cinemas. It was just 4 screenings, like you said, screens torn, falling down, the ceiling tiles falling down, like one fan working somewhere. Nobody ever went. And I love that. I love that ambience, that feel. I would never take my wife on a date to that, but like I would go a lot. I would go there because it's like $5 a ticket, get a popcorn and a soda, and just chill in this dingy theater that reminded me of like a New York theater where you would go and watch kung fu movies.
I guess we just have different theater going levels of acceptance. But because I'm the exact opposite. I don't want to have my feet stick to the floor. I dealt with that when I was a kid too. I mean, that's where these movies were. I mean, they were only at those things. I'm very appreciative for what we have now, and my daughter will never understand what any of us went through when we go to the movies.
I did take Tommy there once. We saw the Peanuts movie.
Oh yeah, my daughter and I saw that too.
The reason we did that was because he's very into the movies, like your daughter is too. He's very into like the movie going experience, which is what I want to cultivate in him, because it was huge for me. Sometimes it was a great escape to get away from the house and just go to the movies. So, and even those dingy movie theaters, like, were just perfect for it. I do agree. We've come up a long way, and Alamo's a place I'd prefer to go to.
Right.
And especially considering they have the groups and things like that. But sometimes you got to give me that old dingy.
Oh, sure.
I got to be afraid of hepatitis if I go in there or something. But that's a very rare experience, and I'm not taking anybody on a date there.
Right.
And I do not suggest anybody else do that either.
No.
But that brings me to a good point. We just both saw a movie. I had seen it years ago when it came out, and you just watched it for the first time.
I did.
And it was a Psycho Cinema movie, as we are both members. I know you didn't see it in Psychocinema, but we have talked about it, and I kind of like that idea. And the reason I say that is because when you watch it at home, you get that feel for a movie. It's nice to watch in the community movies for the first time, but it's a lot nicer when you go with the community who's all seen this movie before. And you can all laugh and joke at the same stuff. When you're watching a new movie and everybody else has seen it, you kind of feel a little off. If you think the same.
Sure.
But I'm kind of glad you got to see Bubba Hotep in that kind of setting where you're at home, comfortable, you can see it for yourself rather than being stuck around people who have seen it. Now, my wife has never seen it, and I took her to go. And she had appreciation, just like I know you would if you were there too. But the reason I thought it would be better for you to see it out when you told me is because of, as much as a film fan as she is, she's not really a cult classics person. She very rarely watches horror movies. She's just, not that she's against them, it's just that, she likes the lovey-dovey movies more and stuff like that. You are a cult classic fan.
I am.
You are a video store kid like me.
I definitely was. I worked at Blockbuster for a very long time. And I'll plug them because they don't exist anymore.
Yeah. Well, they have one in Alaska.
I thought that
no,
they
Oregon.
closed down?
Oregon.
Oh,
That's
Oregon?
right. Yes, there's one in Oregon. Alaska did close down, which I was pissed about because I'm supposed to be going to Stewart, British Columbia in 2022 with a group I belong to called Outpost31.com.
Okay.
And that we're going to hike to Stewart where they film the thing, camp out. They're going to set up a big projector and we're going to watch the thing.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, we've been, my buddy and I have been a part of Outpost since 2002. I was 2002, he was 2001. So like this group, it kind of found a resurgence on Facebook as a group. And we all found each other again. And we had a reunion not too long ago at Monster ManiaCon, I'd say about 4 years ago.
Is that the one in New Jersey?
There's one in Jersey and one in Hunts Valley, Maryland.
Oh, okay.
And if you've never been, I suggest you go. You'd love it. I think your wife and your daughter would both love it. Like, it's just a good, fun time. And it's not that expensive. Like, we've talked about it before, but, like, the autographs and stuff can get that.
Yeah.
They're not awesome con expensive, but they're, like, if you want to go see Robert Englund in full costume, I think it's an autograph, a photo op, unless that was like $100.
That is a lot, though.
Yeah. Oh, no, I agree. But there are, like, guys who do it there, like, 30 or 40.
Oh,
so,
sure.
like, if you wanted to do that, you could.
Mm-hmm.
I go for the stuff.
Sure.
There's some really cool stuff there.
Yeah.
There's some cool filmmakers there I like to go talk to. And so I do plug the hell out of it. Dave Hagen runs it. He's a good dude. I've met him a few times. And so I'm a big proponent of that festival. Now, with that being said, kind of tying it into what we were talking about, I saw Bubba Hotep there, too. No, sorry, that was Horrifying Weekend. That was back in 2004. Sorry, I'm getting off. It popped back into my mind. So, kind of bring it back to where we were, get off Monster ManiaCon. We did see Bubba Hotep, and I want to know what you thought. Your first viewing.
So, I'm a huge Bruce Campbell fan.
Mm-hmm.
I actually really liked the look of the mummy. I don't understand why he looked like a cowboy. I don't think the movie really ever explains why.
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought he looked reminiscent of the Creeper from Creepshow. The way it looked. So I liked that. I thought it was a little weird, and I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. My wife fell asleep, and I'll call her out on it because she was bored. It is a very slow-paced movie. And I understand it was low budget and things like that, but certain low budget movies can keep me entertained, like Hobgoblins, which I was watching the whole time. It was weird, it was freaky, I didn't know what was going on. But with Bubba Hotep, they had so many different ideas going on that they just didn't have time to really pursue. You had the guy who thought he was Jack Kennedy. He was being treated like the president when he fell. Everyone was trying to help him up, and there were so many people in there. And I was like, okay, so is he? And that's fine if he was. Then you had the guy who looked like the Lone Ranger. Was that really, Roy Rogers? Yeah, who was that? It just so many different aspects where I think if they had just a little bit more time, they could have really fleshed it out and made it a little bit better. But it was still a fun movie to watch for the most part. But I'm actually glad I didn't see it in the theater because I might have gotten a little dozy too. And I don't like doing that at the theater.
That's fair.
Because I feel like everyone's like noticing, and I snore, so that would be bad. But no, it was. I was glad I saw it. It just wasn't super fun. There's so many other movies that Bruce Campbell's been in that I enjoy a lot more that I'll probably watch. But
if you've never seen Alien Apocalypse, you should.
I have not seen Alien Apocalypse.
Alien Apocalypse and Man with Screaming Brain.
I have seen that one.
Nice. Okay. Now I like your take on Bubba Hotep, and it is slower paced. Now my thing with like a couple of the points, I just figured because he was in Texas and probably for a very long time, his mummy's been like going and attacking people. He's going to gain somewhat of a, I don't want to say appreciation, but like, you know,
he's going to feel Texan.
He's going to feel like, you know, yeah, he's part of, you know, that where he is. And maybe he got the boots and got the hat, and it just kind of, because it kind of looked like a Native American hat.
It did, and the whole thing fit. It fit together with how the mummy got there. I mean, all that stuff made sense.
Yeah.
It just I just feel like they should have done a little bit more. Like, did the staff know about the mummy? Because that's something they never really mentioned. And you would think somebody would have seen him, and he wasn't attacking the staff on purpose. So I thought it would have been interesting if you actually found out that the staff knew about it and they were purposely doing it so they could get more people.
I do like that Reggie Bannister was in it. You know, Don Coscarelli, longtime player, I'll say. Yeah, I guess that's the best way to put it, as a player, because, you know, he was in all the Phantasm movies and such. But I would have liked that angle, but if there was no connection, I kind of get it. Like the mummy attacking and killing them off. Nobody's going to believe the old people if they say a mummy's killed my roommate or something. Right. So for the mummy, it's like if he attacked any of the staff, it would have taken away his supply.
Sure.
You know, so I kind of I got that too. But one other thing with that, like the Jack Kennedy thing, I don't think it's that they believed he was, and that's why they were treating him. I think by looking at his room, he had money.
So they were humoring him.
Yeah, I think it was just more along the lines of like, this dude's got money, his insurance is probably paying like crazy, or even his family is, or whatever. Because just seeing like the two rooms, like Elvis's room, where he has a roommate and they share a dresser, and like they have these dinky old beds, and then you go to Jack Kennedy's room and it's like big old queen mattress and all that stuff. So I just took that away. It was like one had money and one didn't. For me, I only ever personally believed that Elvis story was real. You know, like he truly was Elvis and he switched.
I could definitely see that. That's kind of how it should have gone. I agree. I didn't realize how good of an Elvis impersonator Bruce Campbell really was.
He did a good job.
He's not Kurt Russell good.
No.
But he's good.
No. Let me ask you this, because you're a John Carpenter fan and you're a Kurt Russell fan.
I am.
So, what was he better as Elvis in? Was he better as Elvis in Elvis? If you've seen it, the Elvis movie?
Forrest Gump.
He was very good in that, yes. Okay, so there's three. There's three. Was he a better Elvis in Elvis, which you said you haven't seen, but that was his and John Carpenter's first movie together. They made a TV movie, and it was a biopic of Elvis.
I have not seen it.
A very young Kurt Russell playing Elvis. And it's good. You should check it out. Especially if you like Elvis. He does a great job. Then there was Forrest Gump, he played Elvis, or 3,000 Miles to Graceland.
So, that is a movie that I absolutely love.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I am a huge heist fan, and I think that movie is just great. Not only because is everybody acting like Elvis, but yeah, I mean, Kurt Russell does a great job. And again, spoiler alert, the fact that he was actually the real descendant of Elvis in the movie was awesome.
It was very cool. And I enjoyed that. But there was... with that there's one line in it that hit me. I remember I saw it with my best friend back in the day when it came out. And my name is Michael. I go by Mick, so there's the secrets out. But I go by Mick for this purpose. But Michael, and I'm from Jersey City, New Jersey. And he says that line in the movie. He goes, "What's your name?" And she's like, "Michael, man." He's like, "You from around here?" He's like, "No, Jersey City mostly." And I'm just like, it was like that, and it's Kurt Russell saying it. So I'm like, I'm you own me now.
Sure.
And then that whole journey was just fun. And especially when they kind of switch gears and he's like in the Sinatra phase towards at one point, I was like, I'm in. And that whole movie was a gorgeous heist movie, you're right, and just a wild action movie. And it deserved way more than it got.
It was so poorly received, which is so weird. The only thing that's bad about the movie is the way Ice-T dies. It makes no sense when he's just spinning upside down. Which I'm thinking, if you're really this massive killer and you're really good, nobody's going to do that. You can't actually kill anybody with 2 guns, especially when you can't see anybody.
It was preposterous, and I don't use that word all the time, but it was truly preposterous. That's a scene, but I loved it. It fit the movie.
It definitely fit the movie. The fact that Kevin Costner never noticed that people have bulletproof vests. Like he knew that Michael had a bulletproof vest, and then when he shoots him again, he doesn't aim for the head. Like it doesn't make any sense. But I do love that film. So yeah, I would say Forrest Gump was his best because wasn't he uncredited? Like he didn't want any credit for it. But it was a great performance.
Do you know what Kurt Russell's first movie is?
It's not The Boy Who Was a Computer, was it?
No, that's a good guess though. It was even younger, 1964, at the World's Fair, an Elvis movie.
Interesting.
He plays a kid that Elvis pays to come up and kick him in front of a girl so he can get sympathy and go see her. And he does it. He runs up, takes the money, and he kicks him, and that was his first role in an Elvis movie. So like going that far and then seeing he played him, and then he played him again in Forrest Gump. Then he played.
It sounds like he probably idolized him.
Oh, he did. He talks very highly of Elvis, just the lore and everything else. So I don't think he was like a fanatic fan, but like I think it was just kind of like he grew up as a kid in the time of Elvis. So like that, I think that's a big deal. But going back to like Bruce Campbell playing him too, that's another one who was a big fan, and it's pretty cool to see him come back and do it. You know, and I think you're right. He did a fantastic job because Bruce Campbell. Later in life, not the early on, the Maniac Cop or anything like that days, but later in life, kind of had a very Elvis vibe.
Yeah, I can see why.
Burn Notice, sort of thing. Like not that he was like Elvis, but like just that like I'm the man type of thing. Like, and he pulls it off so well. You know, he owns that persona.
He does, but he's had a really hard career. I mean, I still think Briscoe County Jr. Was one of my favorite TV shows when I was a kid.
One of the best Western TV shows of all time that gets no respect.
And that, I mean, it got none. It canceled his career, and he didn't really bounce back until Burn Notice.
No.
So he probably had like this time where, by the time he got to Burn Notice, he was already at cult status. Everybody loved him from Evil Dead. Right. Briscoe County Jr. still had a big cult following and stuff like that. So he was kind of, in his own circle, the man. Mm-hmm. So when he starts out in Burn Notice, that persona, because it was completely absent in the first part of his career, as you mentioned. Yeah. He was actually kind of manic and, like, not whiny, but definitely a high-pitched voice. Yeah. Like me. But he... It is weird how he changed. So, yeah, I mean, it might not have been as big of a stretch for him to play Elvis, which is why I wonder why he didn't decide to do a sequel.
Yeah, that is a good point. I wish he kind of did. And because it's a movie that calls for it, it could open up to one.
Well, I think they wanted to do a prequel with vampires in Savannah or something like that, or Louisiana. Because he dies at... sorry, spoiler alert again. He does die at the end of Bubba Hotep.
Supposedly. Well, we don't know. So
right.
Like, it could have been left open.
Right.
Like, that's... Jack's dead.
Right.
100%. But, getting Ozzie Davis back for that would have been tough. But which still boggles my mind that Ozzie Davis was in that movie.
He wanted to have fun. Man.
And I love it. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love when... I keep hitting my mic. I love when, like, really, truly... esteemed actors come out and they want to have fun and they do something cheesy like this and it works, and I just love seeing them in it. But with doing another Bubba Hotep, that would have been great. Now to go back to your point, where we were talking about like he had a tough time of his career, it was funny. In 2004 he did a convention. It's the same convention I was telling you about, the Horror Find, and this was in Maryland. And we met him, and he was a really nice guy. I need to get my third book signed by him. That's the only book of his I don't have signed yet. So, but he was talking. He was introducing Man with a Screaming Brain. He was talking then about they were going to redo Evil Dead. And this just after like Spider-Man 3, I think. Maybe it was 2007. Sorry, my brain melts after a while.
We're both older. It just gets bad.
Too many conventions over the years. You forget which one was where. But and he was outside. He was talking. He was like, and he's like, think about this. He's like, Spider-Man owes me everything. And everybody's like, what? And he's like, in the first movie, I named him. In the second movie, I was the only one who could stop him. Because he was. And then playing that Usher role was fantastic. He's like, in the third movie, I'm the only one who could help him. And he was to get him to get him all this stuff. And I was just like, that's a good way to look at it, Bruce. Like, that's such a Bruce Campbell way to look at things.
No, yeah. Well, since you brought up the Evil Dead movie, I thought the remake was, and I won't say the F word, I thought it was tremendous. Stupendous. I loved that movie.
It's very good.
I even loved that the first person possessed is actually the last one to make it. Like, it was just really interesting how they decided to go that route. A
very strange way to go about it. You're right. And you know what I liked about it? Is it wasn't really a remake.
Mm-mm.
There's a deleted scene, and now this is mostly for them, but
right.
Deleted scene where Bruce Campbell's in it. And he just groovy baby, like
right.
And it works out. So like, I love that. I love that aspect of it. Like, they left it open. Like, Ash still is out there, and then they brought Ash for Seal back, and I love that too. I thought that was a
fun show.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was. It was a fun show. Wasn't very good, but it was a fun. Like the first 3 Evil Dead movies, like they get more fun over time, but like they are like the first 2 are like horrific.
But it's weird that they call it Evil Dead 2 because it's really just a remake of the first 2.
Oh yeah, well they lost all the rights to the first one,
right?
And that's so sad. So
they're like, well, we're just going to remake it, and then the whole. When I was a kid is when I saw this. When I apparently was too young to see it. So I saw Evil Dead 2 first. That's the first one I saw.
Oh, okay.
I hadn't seen the first one, and so I saw it, and I was like, oh, okay. Then I saw the first one, and I could never understand why in the world he would ever go back to that cabin. It does not make sense. He's like, oh, well, they're all gone. This is fine. I'm like, there's no way you clean that cabin. That cabin's got bloodstains. Like, you're not going back there. And then with the fact that it's not, he should have been like, okay, this is weird. Something's wrong. He plays the tape again. It just, the whole thing doesn't make sense. And then Army of Darkness, which is the best horror comedy of all time.
I agree. I definitely think it maintains that status. Which is funny to me because, again, they've shown all of the Evil Dead and Army of Darkness and everything. I don't know if you were there for the double feature of Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness.
I was not. I missed out.
That was like, I think that was my, if Big Trouble in Little China was first, then that was my first Psycho Cinema movie. But I think it might have been Evil Dead 2, Evil Dead, and Army of Darkness double feature. And us talking about it, like I started bringing Tommy, and you bring Violet, and just bringing our kids, and they're both the same age, so I leave information off, so bear with me. So they're about the same age, and they're kids, and I think we have like a very unique, maybe not so much unique anymore, but like it's a unique outlook to parenting, definitely from when we were kids.
Oh yeah.
I know you've talked about your mother. Got you into horror movies, right?
She reluctantly. She just knew that I didn't. I knew they were all fake, and I didn't have a problem with them. She would be scared during those things, and I still jump. But you've never sat next to me during a movie. When there's jump scares, I jump.
Well, now I'm gonna look.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely up in the air, and that's just how I am. But I don't like have nightmares or anything else like that, and I don't. And my daughter is very similar and always has been.
Nice. Okay, that's good. And Tommy's sort of the same way because like we were reading the magazines together, things like that. I have horror filmmaking books and stuff, and he knows I've worked in the industry, so I can explain to him how everything works. So I think it kind of regulates like his fear with it. Like he might jump during the movie, but you're right. Like he doesn't go home. He doesn't bring it home with us.
Right.
It's more excitement than fear. And my 3-year-old's kind of getting to that point. Like he watched. We had Monster Squad on the other day, and he came in.
Such a good one.
Oh yeah, and he was like, "Don't!" Like I turned it off. He's like, "No, no, 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 no!" Like he wanted to watch it, so it was crazy to me. But he is my kid, so. So a lot of parents think, especially when we were growing up, and I think now too, that I guess showing your kids horror movies is a detriment. And we are very much against that. We take them. So I want to get your take on it.
So it's a very similar argument to violent video games, the way I look at it. Yeah. If a kid can play Call of Duty and be actively shooting people, but they can't go to a scary movie because that's too violent, that's weird to me. I never pushed Violet past what she was comfortable with. Mm-hmm. I knew that I wanted to, not get her into horror films, but she wanted to watch TV with me, and she couldn't. So we found a couple of different shows that I knew would kind of get her into that mood. I started with Star Trek Deep Space Nine, mostly because I'd actually never watched it. Mm-hmm. I'd watched all the other series. I'd never watched DS9 because I was a Babylon 5 fan.
Yeah, I like Babylon 5 too.
And so we were watching that, and she saw all these really cool like alien designs and stuff like that because they were really good. And she was like, "How do they do that? Are they real?" And I would go, "No." Then we started watching the show called Face Off, which was
nice.
And it was great because she would see from the start to the finish of making these terribly gory creatures, scary things coming from a regular person, and they're just adding makeup. Mm-hmm. And she knew it wasn't real. Then I started showing her some easier stuff where she wanted to know, how did they do the makeup? How did they do that?
That's awesome.
Tremors was one of the first ones I showed her. Jaws. These were easier stuff. It's terrifying to kids, but she would still get scared, but not that bad. The funny thing is, horror she can handle. She doesn't like it when the kids' movies get scary. Mm. Shazam is the perfect example. It's the only time she has thrown her food up in the air in terror. If anyone's seen it, the scene where the main villain decides to kill his dad, his brother, and the rest of the the rest of the council, I guess, whatever, the board members. He releases all of the 7 sins, and they start killing people. Mm-hmm. And they throw them up against this window, and it's a startling scene. She did not see it coming. She had her food. She saw that, threw it up in the air, and then started crying because all of her food was all over the place. And I was doing everything I could not to laugh because she's never forgotten that. And she'll still watch it, and she'll be ready. She doesn't like jump scares as much, but she's fine with gory stuff.
Nice.
She knows it's fake, and as long as she knows it's fake and she's having fun, then we're good. But I mean, when there are certain movies where she's like, I don't really like this, and I'll turn it off because I'm not going to push her to do that. But I know she wants to spend time with me. She likes painting like I do, so she really wants to do some of that quality time. So I want to take her to stuff that she wants to see too, and we both want. I'll still take her to any cartoon movie she wants to see. Frozen 2. I mean, all the Marvel movies she loves to see. But she'll go to Psycho Cinema, which is funny because there aren't that many people that take them to Psycho Cinema showings. No. Not just because it's Tuesday and it's not a great time for kids. But, I mean, sometimes, the first time I took her, I thought I was getting looks. Like,
no,
it was weird.
It actually made me feel better after I took Tommy. I was like, okay, I'm not the only one. Like, I don't feel like that parent, you know what I mean? So it was definitely nice to see. And it was nice for him, too, because I think when he saw your daughter there, he was like, oh, okay, kids do watch these. He's like, and not that he felt like he was kind of being brought in, but I think for him it was more along the lines of like, okay, because it's like a taboo type of thing for kids sometimes, watching a horror movie, like, or anything rated R or anything like that. So I think when he saw another kid, it's like, okay, this is okay. There is somebody there, and if I jump and they jump, it's accepted. Right,
and Violet has a hard time with going to school because we tell her, hey, look, and we've told her teacher and stuff, hey, if she mentions a horror movie, yes, she was allowed to see this. But we tell Violet, hey, some kids really don't like horror movies, and don't bring them up. And she finds that hard. She's like, well, it's one of my favorite things. I can't talk to my friends about it. I'm like, you can, but some parents don't want them to. And she's like, well, why am I different? I said, because your parents are cool. Uh,
That's a good way to look at it.
yeah, but I mean, I don't begrudge anybody. I know when I was a kid, I had a group of friends, and this actually happened on either my 10th or 11th birthday, when I wanted to watch Army of Darkness at home. All my friends could go, one kid couldn't, and we hung out and everything, and I waited until like 9 o'clock to start the movie, and that's when he left. He's like, "Can't we just watch something else?" And I'm like, "It's my birthday. I really want to watch this." And I asked his parents. I was like, come on, like we're all here. Like this isn't really. Like, nope. If it's PG-13, he can't see it till he's 13. If it's rated R, he can't see it till he's 17. It's okay, and that's fine. Every parent's different. But I think they're missing out, especially when I know what video games he was playing, and those things were way more mature and violent.
You know what it is, though? Parents, I don't think, take the time to understand the video games. Like, if they think video games, they think what they know as video games.
Right.
And now that's changing more and more because our understanding becoming parents are like, we know what's out there. But, like, our parents were like, it's Super Mario Brothers. That's what he's playing. And it's like, no, that's not what he's playing.
Not.
No, that's not at all what he's playing. But I do get, like, that there's certain aspects, and that some parents don't want. But I let him wear his buttons on his book bag. And, like, if somebody asks him, like, you could tell him about the movie, but I was like, don't make him feel bad for not seeing it. And don't ever make anybody feel bad for feeling scared about these type of things. I was like, there's nothing wrong with that. That's what these movies are supposed to elicit. I was like, you are in a different situation because you know that I've worked on stuff like this. So, like, you have that idea that it's fake. He reads my books, stuff like that. So, I think that helps him.
Sure.
To kind of cope. But I won't take him to anything too rough, like, too over-sexualized. But, no, I took him to Friday the 13th. He loves the Friday the 13th movies.
To be fair, and I felt so bad. The Friday the 13th Part 6, I didn't actually remember it has no nudity in it. And I was like, no, there was that tent scene. I was confusing it with Part 9. But with Violet, I'll cover her eyes, and she knows that. And there's certain violent scenes where she's like, I don't like this. For me, I'd say the line is, it's over-sexualized stuff.
Yeah. It's
really, really dark stuff that I think she wouldn't understand. Like, I don't think she would have understood Midsummer. I don't think she would have understood The Nightingale. I actually half regret not taking her to Dial Code Santa Claus. I actually think she probably would have liked that.
Yeah, it's got a Home Alone vibe to it.
It did. And just certain movies, if I haven't seen them, I won't take her. But other movies, like, we'll go see them, and I'll be like, all right, we can go watch this at home.
Yeah.
And I'll show them to her home.
And I will say, there's, and I don't know how you feel about it, but, like, there are some things I hold back from him. Like, I haven't shown him any Nightmare on Elm Street movies. He's been bugging me to watch them. I was like, but I want you to watch those when they're older, because they have things that you'll understand when you're older.
She saw the first one, and the funniest thing is she loved the Johnny Depp scene when he gets pulled in bed. She thought that was so cool.
Oh, yeah.
She thought it was so dumb when Freddy's hands stretched across the alleyway.
Yeah.
She goes, that looks so dumb. She goes, that's fake. And I go, yeah, that's actually a pretty bad effect. I'll go, so she was fine with that. She's fine with Freddy.
Yeah.
Child's Play. Her favorite movie is It, the new one. Mm-hmm. She loves both of those movies.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which is weird because that's about kids getting hurt, and she doesn't care.
Yeah, but I think, like you said, like, she has a problem with the kids' movies having it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because with the kids' movie, you're supposed to feel safe.
Right.
But she probably has reason that in the horror movie, nobody's supposed to feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. Because even back when we were kids, the kids were still kind of always supposed to be safe in horror movies.
Oh, yeah.
And that's all bets are off now. And it was funny because Adam's family, I didn't go, Mary took Tommy to go see it. And he was sitting, I guess he was sitting next to like a 10 or 11-year-old. And the kid is just like, it was talking to him, and I guess the kid got a little snarky with him. And he's like, well, what's your favorite horror movie? And he goes, well, I don't really watch them. He's like, mine's Friday the 13th, Part 8. I just watched it. It was great. And, like, the kid was just kind of shut down by it. And I was like, that's the thing, though. I was like, we were desperate when we were kids to watch these movies. Like, you tried to find them any way you could, go to a video store, whatever, or find them on TV. Mm-hmm. But now it's just readily available, and I don't think a lot of kids are that interested until they get older.
That's true. I think there's a little bit of that, and I think the other aspect is it also depends on what the parents are into. I think kids in general become like their parents. I know I didn't.
Yeah.
So if your parents aren't into horror movies, you're probably not going to grow up into horror movies. If they're into romance films, you're probably going to be a romance film type of person. Or if they don't like movie and don't watch TV, you probably won't either. The only thing that I don't like, and it's not that it's necessarily a bad thing, is you do have parents that every now and then they give you the look, like, what are you doing? Like, this is just irresponsible. It's like, no, it's not. She knows it's fake.
Yeah.
She's not going home and chopping things up or anything else like that. She's just having fun, and that's what the movies are supposed to be about.
What's the famous line? Movies don't make people serial killers. Movies make serial killers more creative. Right. So I think with that, like, it's, I mean, screw the looks, because I've got them too, and I'm just like, whatever. Did you love it? I love this movie. Right. And like, I'll talk about it as loud as I want. It was like, why are you here? If you don't think a 7-year-old should watch it, what are you doing here? You probably shouldn't even be watching it. Like, if you're that uptight about it, I think a lot of people also lost touch with that. Like, when we were 7 and wanted to watch this stuff. Mm-hmm. I watched The Exorcist when I was 7, and it definitely messed with me, like, because like I didn't have that understanding of it's a movie, and I grew up in a Catholic, so I'm like, all right.
That crucifix scene must have been really rough for you.
Well, in fairness, it was TV edited, so that part wasn't there. Like, the cursing was there because it was like cable back then. You remember they left some stuff in, but that wasn't because in later years when I watched it, I'm like, oh wow, that exists. So I was like, I just didn't even like put 2 and 2 together. But it's sad that some people who become parents, and I think becoming a parent changes you in a way too. Like, where it's like some just become overprotective or find religion or whatever they do, which good on them. But it's like I just don't think hiding. I think if you hide it from kids, like when it was hidden from us, we're gonna find it.
Yeah.
So a kid's gonna find it. It's a lot more readily available now with all the streaming services. You might as well explain it to them, and then just say there's lines though. Like, if you want them to have certain lines to it, like, you can watch this, you can watch this, you can watch this. You can't watch this. Like, he loves Halloween time because it's like free for all. If it's on TV, you can watch it because it's edited.
Right.
And no problems there. And I was like, but you have to tell me what you're watching beforehand so I can just prep you if there is anything. And so that's why he loves Halloween. He's like, bring it on, because now I can watch whatever I want.
Right.
And I think that's a good way to introduce too. It's like, so later when it comes around and he sees the unedited, he's like, well, I didn't see that before. It's like, yeah, but you're older now, so it works. Right. It's fine. I don't know. I'm kind of waiting on Candyman though.
That's a rough one though. So for me, the one thing that I like about newer horror movies now is that there's a lot of movies that are really allowing women to be kind of the main characters, not just final girl stuff, but actually, like, empowerment and stuff like that. And those are the movies I really want her to see. Like, I wanted her to see Black Christmas because that was all about empowerment. I wanted her to see Captain Marvel for the same exact reason, because I wanted her to have role models and people to look up to.
Have you shown her the Alien movies yet?
Oh, she's seen Alien.
Good, because that's a perfect role model right there for any girl. I mean, even boy. Like, taken away from it, a hero's a hero. And let me tell you, Sigourney Weaver is a hero in those movies. Ellen Ripley is the best. And I have not shown him the Alien movies yet. I do want to sit down, but I want to do that as a marathon.
Can you skip 3?
No, I love 3. I love 3, and I love the director's cut of 3.
How do I turn off this microphone?
Have you seen the director's cut?
I have not seen the director's cut.
It's a bull. It's not the dog.
Oh, okay.
The alien impregnates a cow, and it comes out and has very bullish features. Even has like little horns, and it's a little more open. Like
I've seen the toy of that.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different. There's some more that kind of explains it, kind of pulls it together a little bit, but it's not my favorite. Aliens is my favorite. I love Alien too. Like,
they're 2 different movies. One's an action movie and one's a horror.
I think I love the action vibe, sci-fi vibe.
I do too.
Because there isn't really a sci-fi vibe other than they're on a spaceship.
Right.
in the first movie, and I love that. But the second one is like this is Starship Troopers, you know, you know, that type of action, and they took the Alien franchise and did it. And there's something about that resonates.
All James Cameron, though. That's what he does.
Yeah. Early James Cameron I like more than because I like Terminator. I'm not a huge fan of T2.
So we're the opposite. We're the opposite on that one.
Well, it's funny that we are because now that you mention that, just to interject for a second, I like the sci-fi action of Aliens over the beautiful horror movie that is Alien, but I like the horror that is Terminator over the sci-fi action as T2.
I guess it was the special effects for me because I thought they were so just amazing, and the fact that Arnold was starting to be a little funny in his movies, just starting, not a ton of humor, but it was there. I mean, I thought Robert Patrick was a better Terminator than Arnold was, and just the look himself, and then right at the end when he's waving the finger, and it fit with this guy's a killer, like a real killer.
Remind me to tell you. Well, I'll just tell you now. I met Robert Patrick when I was living in L.A. I was in a bookstore in Ventura, and I'm just like buying books, and he was buying books, and that's just kind of where I went. And I didn't realize this. This is a couple of years after the Giants. Well, I'm a Giants fan, so like when the Giants won the Super Bowl in 2008. This is actually in 2008 that I saw him because it was like when I first moved there. He was buying a Super Bowl book of the Giants, and I'm just like, the T1000, the Giants, man, and I'm like freaking out, and like just the story doesn't really go anywhere, but like he was very cool, and he was like, why don't you go ahead of me? And I was like, the T1000, let me grab in front of him. And like it's just like it. That's why so I do love T2,
right?
But I love Terminator more a little, because and you know what it is? It's Kyle Reese. I loved his character, and I think it's the same reason that
he brings a lot to it. But did you like him in The Abyss?
I did because he played such a different role. He played that crazy role in it, and I liked him, and not as much, but I like Michael Biehn, so I loved him in Planet Terror. Whenever he pops up, I really like.
He was good in Planet Terror.
So he's kind of an ass in real life.
Oh, he is?
Yeah. Well, I've had run-ins with him where he was kind of an ass, but I still liked him. I'm still like, it's Hudson.
Yeah.
I mean, Hicks, not Hudson. Hudson was Bill Paxton. So he's Hicks. So yeah, whoops. I promise I know movies.
They're both dead. It's fine. Not in real life. I mean in the movie.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, they're both gone.
Scared me. I was like, did we lose Michael Biehn?
No, that would be a big one. No, I just meant, they're both characters are gone. It was so funny. Bill Paxton was just so great.
Oh my God, he was.
And I love that he's in the Predator franchise, the Alien franchise, the Terminator franchise. He just kind of brings them all together, just like Lance Henriksen does.
They were the only two to be killed by all three. And I still maintain it was Bill Paxton more so, because Bill Paxton was killed in the first Terminator. He was killed in the second Predator, and he was killed in the second Aliens movie. Whereas Lance Henriksen was killed in the second Aliens movie.
First Terminator.
First Terminator, yeah, he was the cop, and then it was which Predator movie was it?
Alien versus Predator.
That's what it was. So I didn't connect it because I'm like, it's still Alien versus Predator. You know, it's like it's not Predator 1 or 2, like whereas Bill Paxton kind of got that. So I always kind of give as much as I love Lance Henriksen, I always give the point too. And they both show up in Near Dark, so I love that too.
Right.
So I think we have to give our love to both. They are, but Bill Paxton wasn't killed by Pumpkinhead.
No, he wasn't. But technically, Lance Henriksen wasn't really killed by Pumpkinhead. So
he was Pumpkinhead.
Yeah.
So, all right, fair enough. Stop taking it away from me. Because I love that movie. And actually, that's another one I really love, the sequel to it, too.
I had never seen the sequel. I've seen the first one. I've never seen the sequel.
Check it out. I think you'd really dig it. There's a campy vibe to it, and it stars, what's his name from Hellraiser? He played
Bradley?
No, it's he played Frank. And I can't think of his name. I'm drawing blanks, but like he played Frank in Hellraiser, the main guy.
Oh, okay.
That's his hands. He plays the father in Pumpkinhead too, and it's really well done. I thought it deserves a lot more credit than I think even that gets. But even like Pumpkinhead deserves a lot more credit than it gets.
Yeah, I think they're remaking it too.
All right. I mean, okay, I'm kind of open to that, but I mean, it was such a cool design, though.
It was. It'll be a similar design, but probably be a little different.
Yeah, actually they'll probably make it scarier and work better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, I think we've covered some pretty good ground here.
Sure.
And I just want to announce we are going to have our own show. If you noticed, our theme was cult classic type movies and dealing with horror and things like that. And as you know, thescenesnobs.com does not have a horror type show yet. So we are video store kids, and we thought, what better way than to make a show that deals with the cult classics, the sci-fi, the action, the horror, all that stuff that we loved growing up, and take it and run with it and really analyze everything. So, without further ado, we are going to be in the upcoming weeks. We're going to have our new show, which is going to be called Behind the Box. Now, if you don't know what that means because you haven't been to video stores, if it wasn't behind the box, you couldn't rent it.
Right.
And we're going to really analyze a lot of stuff in the cult world. And, we are the video store Degenerates. So that's where we're going with this. We're going to have guests on, things like that, but we will be your hosts. And as for the Scene Snob podcast, I am your host, Mick Manhattan.
Rob Gocher.
And we will see you soon. Make sure you follow on Instagram and Twitter at The Scene Snob. Give us a like and subscribe down below on whatever platform you're watching or listening. And go check out thescenesnobs.com for more shows. Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Did you have a good time?